Shalom Mispacha. What's up, fam? Here with you with another Lost Tribe series. This book is going to be called The Devastation of the Indies, a brief account by Bartolome de las Casas from 1552. Before we get into that, I'm going to read a scripture to you. Deuteronomy 28, 47 to 51. Because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart, for the abundance of all things. Therefore shalt thou serve thy enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck, until he have destroyed thee. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from afar, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth. A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. A nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of old, nor show favor to the young. And he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle, and the fruit of thy land, until thou be destroyed, which also shall not leave thee either corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thy kind, or flocks of thy sheep, until he have destroyed thee. Now those are the scriptures about the curses that the Most High put on our people for not following him. Now in verse 51, when it talks about the enemy will come and destroy us and leave us with no corn and take it. According to science or what's out there, corn wasn't discovered till the late 1400s, early 1500s, when Christopher Columbus brought it over to Europe. So this scripture was way before the time of Christopher Columbus, and in the Bible it wrote about corn and how it was going to be taken from us. Now we'll get into the book. Alright, before we go into the book, I'm going to give you a brief description of his biography. Bartolome de las Casas was born in Spain on November 11th, 1484. He was a 16th century Spanish landowner, a friar, priest, and bishop, famed as a historian and social reformer. He arrived in Hispaniola, which is Haiti, as a layman, then became a Dominican friar and priest. He was appointed as the first resident bishop of Chiapas and the first officially appointed protector of the Indians. His extensive writings, the most famous being a short account of the destruction of the Indies and Historia de las Indias, chronicles the first decades of the colonization of the West Indies. He describes the atrocities committed by the colonizers against the indigenous peoples. Alright, this is the book, The Devastation of the Indies, a brief account by Bartolome de las Casas. This is a brief account of him saying all the stuff that the Spaniards, aka Christians, came and did to the natives, aka Hebrews. Alright. The Indies was discovered in the year 1492. In the following year, a great many Spaniards went there with the intention of settling the land. Thus, 49 years have passed since the first settlers penetrated the land, the first so-called being the large and the most happy isle called Hispaniola, which is 600 leagues in circumference. Around it in all directions are many other islands, some very big, others very small, and all of them were, as we saw with our own eyes, densely populated with native peoples called Indians. This large island was perhaps the most densely populated place in the world. There must be close to 200 leagues of land in this island, and the sea coast has been explored for more than 10,000 leagues, and each day more of it is being explored, and all the land so far discovered is a beehive of people. It is as though God has crowded into these lands the great majority of mankind. In all the infinite universe of humanity, these people are the most guileless, the most devoid of wickedness and duplicity, the most obedient and faithful to their native masters and to the Spanish Christians whom they serve. They are by nature the most humble, patient, and peaceable, holding no grudges, free from embroiderments, neither excitable nor quarrelsome. These people are the most devoid of rancours, hatreds, or desire for vengeance, and complacent. They are less able to endure heavy labor among us, brought up in enjoyments of life's refinements are no more delicate than are these Indians, even those among them who are of the lowest rank of laborers. They are also poor people, for they not only possess little, but have no desire to possessing worldly goods. For this reason, they are not arrogant, embittered, or greedy. Their repasts are such as that the food of the Holy Fathers in the desert can scarcely be more parsimonious, scanty, and poor. As to their dress, they are generally naked, with only their putenda covered somewhat, and when they cover their shoulders, it is with a square cloth, no more than 2 varas in size. They have no beds, but sleep in a kind of matting, or else in a kind of suspended net called hamakas. They are very clean in their persons, with alert, intelligent minds, docile, and open to doctrine, very apt to receive our holy Catholic faith, to be endowed with virtuous customs, and to behave in godly fashion. And once they begin to hear the tidings of the faith, they are insisted on knowing more and on taking the sacraments of the church and on observing the divine cult that truly the missionaries who are here need to endow by God with great patience in order to cope with such eagerness. Some of the secular Spaniards who have been here for many years say that the goodness of the Indians is undeniable, and that if this gifted people could be brought to know the one true God, would be the most fortunate people of the world. Like they didn't know that they were the true Hebrews. Yet into this sheepfold, into this land of meek outcasts, there came some Spaniards who immediately behaved like ravaging wild beasts, wolves, tigers, or lions that had been starved for many days. And Spaniards have behaved in no other way during the past 40 years down to the present time, for they are still acting like ravening beasts, killing, terrorizing, afflicting, torturing, and destroying the native peoples, doing all this with the strangest and most varied new methods of cruelty never seen or heard of before, and to such a degree that this island of Hispaniola, once so populous, having a population that I estimated to be more than 3 million people, has now a population of barely 200 persons. The island of Cuba is nearly as long as the distance between Valladolid and Rome. It is now almost completely depopulated. San Juan and Jamaica are 2 of the largest, most productive and attractive islands, but both are now deserted and devastated. On the north side of the Cuba and Hispaniola lie the neighboring Lucanos, comprising more than 60 islands, including those called Gigantes, besides numerous other islands, some small, some large. The least felicitous of them was more fertile and beautiful than the gardens of the kings of Seville. They have the healthiest lands in the world, where lived more than 500,000 souls. They are now deserted, inhabited by not a single living creature. All the people were slain or died after being taken into captivity and brought to the island of Hispaniola to be sold as slaves. Yes, native Indian slaves. When the Spaniards saw that some of these had escaped, they sent a ship to find them, and it voyaged for 3 years among the islands, searching for those who had escaped being slaughtered. For a good Christian had helped them escape, taking pity on them, and had won them over to Christ. Of these that were 11 persons, and these I saw. More than 30 other islands in the vicinity of San Juan are for the most part and for the same reason depopulated, and the land laid waste. On the islands, I estimate that there are 2,100 leagues of land that have been ruined and depopulated, empty of people. As far as the vast mainland, which is 10 times larger than all Spain, even including Aragon and Portugal, containing more land than the distance between Seville and Jerusalem, or more than 2,000 leagues, we are sure that our Spaniards with their cruel and abominable acts have devastated the land and exterminated the rational people who fully inhabited it. We can estimate very surely and truthfully that the 40 years that have passed with the infernal actions of the Christians, they have been unjustly slain, more than 12 million men, women, and children. In truth, I believe without trying to deceive myself that the number of the slain is more like 15 million. The common ways mainly employed by the Spaniards who call themselves Christians and who have gone there to extirpate those pitiful nations and wipe them off the earth, it's by unjustly wages cruel and bloody wars. Then, when they have slain all those who fought for their lives or to escape the tortures they would have to endure. That is to say, when they have slain all the native rulers and young men, since the Spaniards usually spare only the women and children who are subjected to the hardness and bitterest servitude ever suffered by man or beast. They enslave any survivors. With these infernal methods of tyranny, they debase and weaken countless numbers of those pitiful Indian nations. The reason for killing and destroying such an infinite number of souls is that the Christians have an ultimate aim, which is to acquire gold and to swell themselves with the riches in a very brief time, and thus rise to the high estate disproportionate to their merits. It should be kept in mind that the insatiable greed and ambition, the greatest ever seen in the world, is the cause of the villainies, and also those lands are so rich and felicious, the native people so meek and patient, so easy to subject, that our Spaniards are more consideration for them than beasts. And I say this from my own knowledge of the acts that I witnessed, but I should not say the beasts, for thanks be to God, they have treated beasts with some respect, I should say, instead, like excrement on the public squares, and thus they have deprived the Indians of their lives and souls, for the millions I mentioned have died without the faith and without the benefit of the sacraments. This is a well-known and proven fact, which even the tyrant governors, themselves killers, known and admit, and never have the Indians in all the Indies committed any act against the Spanish Christians until those Christians have first and many times committed countless cruel aggressions against them or against neighboring nations. For in the beginning the Indians regarded the Spaniards as angels from heaven. Only after the Spaniards had used violence against them, killing, robbing, torturing, did the Indians ever rise up against them. Alright, family, this is part 1 of 2. I'm gonna continue on more atrocities that the Spanish Christians did to the native Indians in part 2 coming up.